Hi, everybody, and welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast bonus episode, Best of 2020.
Year-end awards, baby.
I am your host, and with me, as always, interrupting me is my teenage son, Jackson. Say hello, Jack.
Hello.
Yes, Happy New Year's, everybody. It is literally
Yes.
New Year's Day. We are going to try and record this and publish it on New Year's Day. So hopefully you have some time to join us and enjoy this. Hope you had a fun and safe New Year's Eve. We stayed in and made a bunch of appetizers, ordered Domino's, and played board games and watched the Dick Clark show so that we could rip on most of the pop acts that come across.
Doja Cat.
To the annoyance of your mom.
Oh, yes.
She doesn't like our criticisms.
But it is tradition now.
Yeah,
to
it is.
Bag on all of the
It's what
crappy
we do.
performances.
We record it, started a bit late so that we can fast forward
Yeah.
commercials and parts that are
Yeah.
super duper lame and just it's part of our tradition
Yeah, and
now.
I think it was like Wednesday or something. I was playing Battlefront with my friend, and shout out to Jay because he said he actually likes the podcast a lot.
Thanks, Jay.
Even though he's not a wrestling fan, but I just thought that was really cool. So shout out to my friend Jay.
That is cool. Yeah, so we're going to sort of focus on some positivity here today, which is nice. We got 2020 out of the way. Not like 2021 starting off completely different
They're
or
acting
anything,
like
but
2020, we're putting 2020 behind us and starting off a fresh new year. It's like, it's nice to be optimistic, but it's not like it's going to be instantly different.
we're just trying to be hopeful. There's no
Yeah.
way that it can be worse than 2020, I hope.
I think one of the things that stayed, like, for the most part, pretty good throughout the year is pro wrestling. Like, it did hit that lull when the pandemic first kind of came out.
It was one of the
but-
only things still going. I remember walking out of my volleyball league and reading on my phone, because I hadn't looked at my phone in hours, that the NBA was shutting down because of Corona. And I was like, what? Like, this is serious.
Yeah, I was honestly, like, because that was when we were still half watching main roster, I think.
Right. Yeah, we were.
I was worried it was gonna like we wouldn't have that to watch every week, and it was funny. So they did the one NXT in the Performance Center for like less attendance, and then they were doing it in SmackDown. It's like, okay, that'd be different. And then it was empty arena. I'm just like, what the heck?
So it's funny because I remember when this all started and everything else was gone and wrestling was the only thing left, my thought was, this is an opportunity for them to pick up some viewers, right? Because there literally is no other game in town.
And that's Vince's thing. Everything you need is in WWE, right?
But now looking at, in hindsight, right, ratings are at an all-time low, are like bottoming out. Which
and you also have an abundance of streaming services these days.
That's
like
true.
Disney Plus, Netflix, Crave, Hulu.
People can just
Amazon
go and
Prime.
binge watch whatever they want.
Right.
But you would think that sports fans starving for content might turn to something that's sort of sports, at least athletic, right, in wrestling, but they clearly did not. So yeah, I thought I would just start out talking about a few things that wrestling in 2020 brought us, right, just to sort of look back really quickly. And most of these are due to Corona, but some are just because things happened. So we ended up with empty arena wrestling, which we are not a fan of.
Did. That's why I don't watch Ring of Honor or Impact. That's the only thing holding me back, really.
I am starting to struggle a little bit on those shows because it definitely takes away from the overall product.
Even just like some virtual fans or like use the plants that like NXT has.
And that was my next thing that we got was sort of extra wrestlers as fans wrestling, right?
Yeah, we don't have that in the main roster now, but
No.
NXT still uses that like half. I think it's even like actual fans because, as you know, Florida is crazy and they have people there.
And AEW has, they have some
AEW
numbers
has
of
like
fans.
real fans, but like way off, so that is social distance. They're wearing masks and whatnot.
Yep.
And you got wrestlers at ringside, so it's like kind of a double kind of crowd thing. It's pretty cool.
And then we sort of evolved from there into virtual fans. So you've got Thunderdome and whatever the version was they used with NXT,
even
right?
NXT UK a bit.
Which I was not a fan of. I thought it looked cool for the very first time I saw it. I even think
and
I
then,
checked out whatever show it was.
It was SmackDown. Remember Fiend and like Vince?
Yeah, and we checked it out, and it just
Retribution.
got to be too much. It's laggy.
Like constant crowd noise.
Yeah,
it's not like they'll cheer when it's a move. It's just like constant, like
I like the idea in theory. It did get faces on the screen, and it looks like fans, but their execution of it didn't work for me. I got really tired of it. It actually ended up annoying me more than helping the show for me, I think.
Yeah, it makes main roster pay-per-views more of a pain than usual.
We also got, fortunately, it's good these things come out. The speaking out movement that hit wrestling really hard, right? Multiple promotions in multiple countries and continents sort of took a hit there. Lots of wrestlers sort of singled out, reputations harmed, etc. I don't want to get into it too much, but that was definitely part of the year. We also got into the whole third-party problems issues with Twitch and Cameo and Vince not wanting any of his talent to be anywhere else, making money for anyone else but him. Which also led into the political possibilities of that, right? We had presidential candidate Andrew Yang starting to talk about the whole independent contractor thing and saying that if Joe Biden got elected, he would be looking into it. So we'll see if that happens in 2021.
We also got Cine matches.
That was my next 2 bullets away from that. Yes, we got a full year of AEW, right? And the Wednesday Night Wars. Yes. Which is a good thing, I think, for all of us.
Not a full year of Wednesday Night Wars. We did get a couple Super Tuesday things from NXT.
We did. They missed a couple nights here and there, but nothing major.
Those were good shows, though.
And then we also did, in fact, get Cine matches, which I am personally not a fan of, as you'll find out when we talk about them. The only
one I liked was, we'll get into that later.
It. There was really only one I thoroughly enjoyed this year. A couple that I thought were okay, I guess, but only one I thoroughly enjoyed. So
agreed.
I'm sure Cine matches are going to stay. I'm not a big fan, but they can be done really well for sure.
Yeah, they can, and we've been shown that, but for the most part, they've been really just boring. One honorable mention to that non-match at Backlash this year between Street Profits and Viking Raiders that involved the Ninjas, and that was awful.
If we were main roster people, that would be in my worst segment, whatever you want to call it.
I think I might even, just because we watch all the pay-per-views, so at least and we do the Turbo reviews. So
we do.
I guess we could include it as that, but that one was awful.
It was
in
bad.
Particular.
So the way we sort of went about this is we brainstormed a bunch of topics together. Jack actually did a bunch of work and organized it all, and then I came and sort of came and polished it up at the end. So we've got, I don't know how many categories. I'm thinking it looks like 12 to 15 on there, something like that.
We got a decent amount.
So we're going to go through them. We'll talk about the category, the nominees. We will each give our picks. We didn't agree on these, and in fact, he knows some of mine, but I don't think he knows all of mine, and I don't really know any of yours.
I do if I want to check.
So we will be sort of revealing these to each other kind of on the spot. So we hope you enjoy it. We'll see how everything goes. Are you ready to get into it, buddy?
Yep.
All right, so let's go. So our first category is we decided we're going to talk about the most improved wrestler of the year.
So
and
this is
a combined between both AEW and NXT, which is really what we're focusing on here.
Some of them are going to be separate.
So this one is a combined award.
And this is like someone who, for example, started out in the year maybe as like a nobody or just wasn't doing well. And then by the end of the year came to be like either entertaining, likable, or hateable if they're a heel, just like really improving their work and becoming like a better pro wrestler by the end of 2020.
Right. Nominees?
So we got Orange Cassidy, and this guy is really a good nominee for this. At the beginning of the year, we hadn't seen him wrestle on AEW. He had the match with Pac at Revolution, and then he really just took off from there. Had a great feud with Chris Jericho, and then even challenged Brody Lee, rest in peace, for the TNT Championship, and Cody as well. And became like an actually pretty good wrestler. I never would have expected this in January. If you had told me Orange Cassidy's going to be putting on amazing matches and wrestling for championships, I would have said you were crazy.
And I thought I was going to get tired of his gimmick, and I think maybe I'm starting to, but they booked him really well. He had a great year.
And then next we have Wardlow, and this is another good one because I think last year he only had, or 2 years ago technically, he had a cage match against Cody Rhodes, and I don't really remember that too much, but that was
he was just present, never really wrestling for the first bit of
his
career. But
he's really improved, especially alongside MJF. That's always good for him, just kind of being in tag matches, right? And he's a pretty good big man.
It was a perfect combination. You have the brilliant guy on the mic with the big silent muscle man beside him. That's one of my 3 drinks I just dropped.
Speaking of, next nominee is MJF, and this guy has had a great year, titles or no titles. He started the year in that ill-fated face turn that was the heel turn on Cody. I think he was heel, though. I think he turned heel end of 2019.
Yep.
But then he just really evolved. His promos got better. He had a pretty good feud with Moxley, joined the Inner Circle, which was a very funny storyline. We'll talk about that later. He's just really good on the mic, and I think the only place he's had to improve on is his in-ring work, which I think
still isn't bad, right?
Yeah, but he's definitely improved a ton.
Yep.
Our next nominee, another AEW superstar, is Bert Baker. She went from bland dentist character babyface to like a full-blown heel, and think her character's improved so much, and her in-ring style just kind of improved as a result of the character change.
Yes, her character work is
It just really helps.
amazing.
A heel turn sometimes helps your style, and I think that's evident in our next nominee as well, Dakota Kai, who had a heel turn towards the end of 2019, and she started the year with a feud against Tegan Nox, in which Raquel Gonzalez debuted.
Forgot about Tegan Nox already.
Yes. And she's just been, like, she hasn't won any titles, but she's been, like, throughout the, like, in and out of the title scene in NXT. Had matches against, like, Io Shirai and
I've
Candice
loved a
LeRae.
bunch of her matches. If you listen to the show, you know that.
And a testament to her improvement is that she actually carried Shotzi Blackheart to a decent match.
I knew that was coming.
Like, not any Io Shirai didn't even do that. I mean, Io Shirai is probably better, but, like, Dakota Kai was actually able to drag Shotzi to a decent match, and I think that speaks to her improvement this year.
Correct.
And our final nominee is one of my favorites, is Damien Priest.
Yes.
He really has improved as a character, and his in-ring work was always decent. I think that has improved a bit too, but he won the North American Championship in that ladder match after Keith Lee vacated it. Had a pretty good run, had some cool defenses, then lost to Johnny Gargano. Right now he's kind of fell out of prominence, but as a whole, his year's been pretty good.
For sure.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll go first if you want. Give you a break. So my honorable mention, because it was close for me, I was between two people, went to Britt Baker. She improved a ton this year, for sure. And my winner is probably not going to be anyone's choice but mine, but I honestly thought Dakota Kai had a great year, has improved drastically in every important category for me. Wrestling-wise, character-wise, speaking-wise, just overall presentation. She consistently had really good matches with a bunch of different talent, worked many different styles, worked well as a duo with Gonzalez. I just think she's incredibly valuable to this women's division because they don't really need to focus on her, and she just keeps having great matches. And I've talked about it before. When she started with NXT, I was not a fan. I did not see she was playing a super baby face.
And I think she'll make a reliable champion anytime.
She will, when they're ready for her, right? So shout out to Britt Baker because her improvement was drastic. But for me, this year, I was just thoroughly impressed all year by the steady improvement, and I think she's phenomenal. So my choice was Dakota Kai.
I think that's a fair pick too, and she was close to being my pick, but I went with Britt Baker. And because I basically went from hating her like Shotzi Blackheart to her being like one of my favorites in the women's division, like just in general.
She was very not interesting when she started, for sure.
And that just shows her improvement, in my opinion. As we've seen with various women in NXT as well, Baker's heel turn was a stroke of genius, and her dentist character adds some real life to this.
It does.
And gives her something to obnoxiously remind everyone about. And it makes her unique because she has the actual credentials, right? And Dakota Kai was my close second, though, because much like Baker, her heel turn has turned her career around for the better. Gonzalez has only bettered her character, and their Shawn Michaels Diesel dynamic is great.
Agreed.
She's improved in the ring so much, so she dragged a decent match out of Shotzi Blackheart.
There it is. Again.
The main reason I picked Baker over her, though, is because I feel like Baker has made better strides in her character work. I just think she even managed to stay entertaining through an injury where she couldn't compete.
That's right.
And I think that just kind of sewed that into me. Just like I thought that was really cool how she was able to
That's a good point.
improve on her character throughout an injury.
Her character was so
in-ring
strong.
work has improved a bit too, but I just think her character work has improved so much. So Britt Baker wins my pick.
Yep, that was a good point. She was so good as her heel character.
They kept her around in an injury.
They kept giving her a segment every week when she couldn't wrestle at all.
It was great too. It's not even like it was bad. It was
they
really
were good. And her pairing with Rebel Reba is very funny as well. It still works for me. All right, so that brings us to our next award, which will be our Breakout Star of the Year. This is another award that's combined between both AEW and the other one, NXT. So go ahead, what are our nominees?
This one, it's kind of like, it's not necessarily someone who's improved, but maybe someone who is like underappreciated or just not super recognized, like not maybe at the top of the card, but has risen in the ranks and just shown everybody what they can do.
Right.
So our first nominee is more recent one is Kyle O'Reilly.
Yep.
He was in the tag division for a while. Then when COVID struck, I think he was probably held out for a bit, so he had a bit of an absence.
He did.
And then he came back, was kind of in the tag division, then won that Gauntlet Eliminator, challenged Balor in a great match.
Awesome match.
Match of the Year candidate.
It is.
And it has really proven himself as a really good single star. He's proven himself to the NXT fans.
He has.
MJF as well kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying in our improved star category, where he's just really broken out and proved himself as a decent main event talent and an incredible guy on the mic as well.
Yep.
Orange Cassidy is another one, as he improved in ring but also broke out towards the upper card. Had some great matches, like I said, and he's done really well as well. Darby Allen, he went from just kind of being this interesting kind of character to, like, he was just, I think he became a really big fan favorite, had some epic matches with the likes of Cody and Chris Jericho and Pac. So he's really broken out towards the main event, won the TNT Championship at the end of the year, so he's doing really good as well. Karrion Kross, who debuted in NXT earlier this year, and he really just shot to the top of the card as soon as he came in.
Yes.
Won the NXT title from Keith Lee.
Best entrance in the game.
Yes, true. And then he got injured, but that wasn't his fault. I still think he would be a nominee because he just broke out very quick. Also got a victory over Tommaso Ciampa at In Your House this year.
Yep.
And our next nominee is, in fact, Keith Lee. This guy has had a really good year on the back of some good wins last year, or at the end of 2019, rather. Like at Survivor Series, he had a really good showing. Unfortunately, came short to Roman Reigns, but that's all right. Then he had a good showing in the Royal Rumble against Brock Lesnar this year. And then shortly after, he won the North American Championship for Roderick Strong. Had some good defenses against Dijakovic, among others. And then defeated Adam Cole in a winner-take-all match to become the first ever dual champion in NXT history. If that's not breaking out, I don't know what is.
Fair enough.
He didn't have a great NXT title run after, but it's still a momentous win, so...
Right, and that wasn't really his fault.
And Raquel Gonzalez, she only debuted this year, but still broke out. She had a big match against Rhea Ripley, which they're revisiting soon.
Yes, they are.
But she went from Dakota Kai's bodyguard to a great wrestler in her own right, and is rapidly improving.
Yes, she will be a big deal in 2021, I believe.
Then we have Bert Baker. She's also broken out, as her heel character has just shot her to the top of AEW. Whether she's been in main event matches or not, she's just constantly something you'd want to watch, and I think that's breaking out from going from a boring character to something that is a joy to watch every week.
True.
You want to go first again?
Sure. This one was so close for me, I literally hadn't written down my final choice, so I had it narrowed down between MJF and Darby Allen, and it's like a razor thin margin as to who I think wins this.
That's fair.
Because to me, they just came out of nowhere to me. I really knew very little about either of them. Darby Allen we had seen in, what was the show we saw?
The Wrestlers. And
right.
He was like this kind of almost like Sabu, where he just does like these...
Just like a deathmatch guy.
Yeah, deathmatch guy.
And then MJF I'd really only heard of briefly. So both of them are huge breakout stars and are going to be huge going forward. So my choice is going to be, I'm going to take MJF just due to his standout promos. It's different, right? You're kind of comparing apples and oranges, because Darby Allen's focus is the really weird silent vignettes, basically, of him doing what he does, versus the MJF super, a lot of words, a lot of talking.
Yeah, it really is a contrast of styles.
I can't fault either one of these guys, but I'll take MJF just for the overall package, I think. Nice. And I'm expecting Gonzalez might be my choice next year, because I think she's just going to continue to ride this into next year. What did you have?
I picked Darby Allen, actually. I was almost going to pick Kyle O'Reilly, because he really proved himself as a killer single star.
He did.
But given he hasn't won a singles title yet, and it started later in the year, I don't think he would have been the best candidate, although he was pretty close. If I was basing this on accomplishments alone, Keith Lee would be
Agreed.
A close winner.
But
he came out of 2019 looking good, won the North American title, and became a dual champion. However, like I said, the NXT title run wasn't super long.
And I don't love his mic work, to be honest.
Yeah,
right?
and
so
then
that's
his
a
momentum was further halted when he got called up to Raw. He is challenging for the WWE Championship this Monday.
And then, if I'm being honest, once he's gone to main roster, I pretty much forget all about him.
Yeah, which sucks, because he was a great wrestler.
He was.
But I picked Darby Allin because he's had strong matches throughout the year against the likes of Cody, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, Team Taz, and Pac. His last singles bout against Cody yielded him his first singles title in AEW in the form of the TNT Championship, and he cemented himself as a firm fan favorite. I love his vignettes, his matches are amazing, and I believe he's a true future main eventer. I think he's truly broken out this year among all the chaos, so he's my pick.
Awesome. I can't disagree with that choice. I'm happy both of those guys got some recognition on our year-end pod.
They both had great years.
They did.
In different ways, but both great.
So our next award, we are going to talk about the best segment of the year. So that's like one sort of condensed segment. And again, this is a combined award between the two companies.
Yep.
So what do you have for us, Jack?
So our nominees are the late one, the acclaimed rap video.
Just barely made it into the best of show.
It did. And given how late it was, that's a testament to how good it is.
Yeah,
just
for sure.
Search up on YouTube the acclaimed Buck Hunt. If you haven't seen it already, this is awesome.
Fantastic segment.
There's not enough to say about this. You gotta see it.
Yep.
Pete Dunne joins Pat McAfee at Halloween Havoc this year.
That was a fun moment.
This was cool because I liked when he hit him with the chair and then he did the roundhouse. And
we love us some Pete Dunne.
I like when they're all taunting Kyle O'Reilly and then he just does the shrug after.
Right.
And it was a cool swerve as well, so it was a good segment.
Yep.
Then Inner Circle Slay Las Vegas, which is kind of multiple segments, but you could, since they were like different parts, you could kind of combine them into one. These were really funny. These are the things that Chris Jericho nowadays specializes in.
It was the
really
Hangover takeoff, basically,
Yeah.
a parody of the Hangover.
It was funny though.
Yeah, it was.
And then Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho debate. This was really funny. I like this. I like when Cassidy just being lazy, not giving answers to the questions, and then the last one he just gives a super intelligent answer.
Oh, there's something about the environment, right?
Yeah.
And he gave like a brilliant,
it was just really
answer.
funny too.
Yep.
Jericho again excels at this stuff. And it was really good. And then the Moxley versus Kingston face-off. This just added so much intensity to their feud. They were literally like nose to nose, just yelling at each other. I remember you really liked this when we reviewed it.
Loved it.
But this was really good, very heated, just fit the feud very nicely.
Yep.
You want to go?
Sure. So my honorable mention is the Moxley Kingston promos. That they were absolutely amazing and built that feud instantly. Like I went from not really caring too much to just I needed to see that match.
Yeah.
Right?
So there was this. This was the last segment, I believe, of the build before the pay-per-view. But this was one of the big reasons that this feud was just so interesting. It just felt really personal. These guys actually had a lot of history.
Yep.
The segment was really good.
And Kingston and Moxie are amazing on the mic, as that'll come up in our awards later on, I'm sure.
Yep.
So I have to admit, my single favorite segment this year is the one that just made it under the wire, and that has to be the acclaimed diss track on the Young Bucks. That was simply amazing.
Yes.
Just a very talented guy. I think it's mostly Max Caster, right?
Caster.
So a talented musician, rapper, whatever you want to say, and then just like clever cutting lyrics that require you to know some backstory about the Bucks and things, right? So just an amazing segment. It made it in just by like a week, basically, right? Or 2 weeks. But it is my segment of the year, is the acclaimed diss track.
Yes, I also picked this. This one came in last minute, but it was just so amazing. I don't think I would have picked anything else. I rewatched this so many times.
I was just going to say, how many
and
times?
I don't usually do that, but that's, again, it just speaks to how good this was. The lyrics flowed well and were clever as well, so that was amazing. And after their lackluster Dynamite debut against SCU, I really wasn't thrilled about their match against the Bucks. But this made me like them so much, and I was actually interested in the match, and that's why it wins my segment of the year.
And I'm not even sure how I feel about the acclaimed.
But this
it's not like
entertaining.
I love them and want to like everything they do. So that's even more of an endorsement of this segment, because I'm sort of undecided on them still as an act. I'm leaning towards liking them, but that segment just blew me away. Fantastic.
Yes,
all right.
It was amazing.
Our next is going into, so longer than a segment would be a storyline. So we're going to look at the best storylines from this year. Nominees?
Paige and the Elite, Hangman Page and the Elite, the kind of the dissension in the ranks, and then like when he gets kicked out, kind of also involved FTR at points.
Yep.
This storyline, it ran through the whole year and just was so slowly and cleverly built. You really had to. AEW really relied on your intelligence rather than what WWE would go to.
They let you sort of figure things out and enjoy it.
And then we got the Xia Li Boa training vignette series.
We might be the only podcast in the world including that, but hey, we're going to.
This is still kind of unfinished, so it's kind of hard to pick it. But
yes, there's no resolution yet.
It has been pretty interesting so far.
I've liked it every week.
Moxley versus Kingston, like we said, the build to this match alone, which is kind of what we're talking about, made the match exciting. Like, if there wasn't such a strong build, this match wouldn't have been as good.
Yes.
So the build was just very strong. A great storyline that kind of came in at the tail end of the year. The NXT Ghost Faces that started at Halloween Havoc.
Because we have to include something from NXT in here. It seems like it's a lot of AEW stuff, right? Which is a telling thing, right? Sorry, go ahead.
This still wasn't bad, not like that we had to throw it in. It was pretty interesting.
It was. I was interested
even though
for a bit.
we kind of called it, because I did hear some things.
But again, predictable's not bad always, right?
So, and it was cool. It resulted in Indy Hartwell and Austin Theory joining the Garganos. So
yes.
Pretty good. MJF to Inner Circle. This produced so many entertaining and great comedy segments, and not even comedy in a bad way that's just like annoying, but like these were all very entertaining.
Yep.
So many segments in this match, and kind of an entertaining match between Jericho and MJF.
And just anything putting MJF and Jericho together and letting them talk. It's going to be better than average, no matter what, right?
And Dark Order's recruitment I would say the Exalted one.
Yep.
The Dark Order really have improved this year, and it makes it even more of a shame that Brody Lee's gone, because he really did make the Dark Order so much more interesting, and I thought he had a lot more to offer in his TNT title run. But anyways, I think the Dark Order's recruitment is good. They recruited Anna Jay, I think, and they're working on Hangman Page right now, and Ty Conti.
And oh my goodness, Scotty Goldman.
Who's that? Oh, Colt Cabana.
I just capping on his.
Why did you say Scotty Goldman?
Because you had just looked that up in the encyclopedia.
Yeah,
you didn't think I knew.
In the WWE encyclopedia, I found Scotty Goldman, which is Colt Cabana in WWE.
And he thought he was gonna stump me, and
I just wanted to see if you knew it.
I did. Okay, so those are the nominees. My choice. So honorable mention, again, I'm giving to Xia Li and Boa, just because I think those are super cool. And I like that it's aimed at wrestlers way down the card, right? And it's hopefully going to help them up and elevate them a little bit. So I've been enjoying that. But I have to give this to the Page Elite storyline. Just because it was incredibly well done, entertaining, and it spanned so many weeks and months and whatever, and delivered some really great matches along the way. If this category wasn't super close for me, I think this was by far the best storyline this year. And do you disagree?
I do not disagree. The storyline was slowly and cleverly built. Went through it the whole year. It felt realistic. Like, this is something that could happen, or something along the lines of this could happen.
Yep.
And AEW is really relying on you to be intelligent and pay attention, whereas WWE would beat you over the head with stuff a million times and cram it down your throat because they assume you can't figure out anything for yourselves.
That's correct.
But the dynamic between Omega and Page was cool because they had so many disagreements. There was almost dissension in the ranks, but they were able to come together and be a dominant force, and they held the tag titles for the majority of 2020.
Right.
Hangman being finally kicked out of the Elite after costing the Bucks a title shot, and it was just kind of icing on the cake of an interesting storyline. And it was even cool that FTR manipulated him, to do that, right? It was just genius. And
so it started to include other tag teams.
And then it evolved into Hangman versus Omega a bit, and which happened at Full Gear. And I hope this is revisited in some capacity sometime in the future, because this was amazing. Of course, this is going to be my storyline of the year.
Agreed. All right, so next we're going to look at our favorite feud or best feud of the year. And we have nominees for that, sir?
I'm just scrolling to it. Where?
Yeah, go ahead. It is another combined award between both AEW and NXT and our nominees.
My chart's not in order, so I have to scroll this stuff.
That's all secret information. No one needs to know. This is all perfectly prepared and executed.
I'm
professional.
So we got Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, one that kind of came in tail end of the year. It started out like whatever. It was just like Kingston wanted a shot because he never got eliminated from the Battle Royal, so they had a Dynamite match. And then he never tapped, and then just all the promos and whatnot really made this a super interesting feud. Felt personal, and just they actually had history. It was just so cleverly built in the short time that it existed.
Yep, it was great.
Just really done, and a highlight of Jon Moxley's title run.
Yep, and ended it with a good match too.
Next we have an even shorter feud, perhaps, or long, depending on how you look at it. Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega. The one-on-one feud between these guys was a little short because it ended in the tournament, but it did kind of was hinted at throughout the year, and I think that just makes it kind of unique in the aspect that it's just it was hinted at, and then at the end of the year, we kind of came to it.
Yep, absolutely.
There's just, again, it was our storyline of the year. It does kind of play into the Page and the Elite thing. It was just good, and their match at Full Gear was pretty good. A little short, but... Then we have Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. The dynamic in this feud was so interesting because you got Cassidy, the guy who does not give a damn. He's just so lazy, hands in his pockets, the lazy kicks and whatnot. And then Chris Jericho is the opposite of that.
Yep.
And this capped off with that entertaining Mimosa Mayhem match.
It did.
And there's that one segment where Orange Cassidy dumped orange juice on him, and then his jacket.
$7,000 jacket.
Yep.
You mentioned it this week.
This feud is really entertaining, and this is one of the reasons why Cassidy was nominated for our Breakout Star award, because this really shot him up as like a main event level talent.
Yeah, he carried. They gave him a shot at the top of the card, and he performed.
Yep. And then we have the Young Bucks versus FTR. This has been brewing for years.
It has.
But I don't think we could include that as part of the feud, because we kind of got included as what actually went down.
This year,
So the FTR kind of debuted as baby faces, which I thought was a little ill-fated, and they're kind of being friendly to the Bucks, and like it looked like they were going in a weird direction, but they eventually had their inevitable heel turn. And then their manipulation of Paige kind of angered the Bucks further. And then they had that blow-off match at Full Gear, which was amazing.
They did.
And
love that match.
Like the Paige and the Elite storyline, I hope this is revisited sometime.
I think it will be.
I think it has all the potential in the world for them to go at it again. This can be one of those off-again, on-again feuds. Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee, because we had to have an NXT thing somewhere.
Yep.
This feud was fine. Like, there's that thing with the fireball. But this didn't last long, and it was fine. It was
and then the match, Cross got injured, right? So it wasn't quite as...
And the big match that it was leading to, it was kind of hindered by an injury.
Yep.
Taking a sip. Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks. Well, this feud only had one match at the beginning, really. This kind of continued after that match without having a rematch, really. Like, just the way this was built, it makes it so special. It's really hard to explain. You kind of had to be watching the whole year to really know what we're talking about.
There's a lot of subtlety going on in different directions with that.
This was just, it built throughout the whole year, and it was just amazing. It kind of led into Omega versus Page.
Right.
It was really good. Cody versus MJF was a pretty good feud. But since it started in 2019, it didn't have much in this year because it just kind of ended this year at Revolution. But was really cool because MJF's kind of like the young upstart trying to upstage Cody.
Yep.
Trying to get out of the shadow. And it was really good. It started off MJF's great heel work, which we talked about already.
Yep.
Then we got another NXT nominee, which I think probably has a better chance than our other NXT one, is O'Reilly versus Balor, which is a later one, but I think this feud is cool because it's not like it's super personal or anything. It's just they both are great pro wrestlers who both just want to win.
Right.
And they both care about the heavyweight title. They both just really want to win.
Very simple storytelling, but effective, right?
Right. It's it's one of those examples where simplicity is most effective.
Especially if you're not good at doing complicated, which they're not.
Right.
Keep it simple.
And this was just really good and simple. Your pick?
For me, I chose Page and Omega and the Young Bucks, sort of like the fall of the Elite, right? Was the feud that I was most interested in for the longest this year, I think. Mm-hmm. It built really slowly. There was lots of subtlety even within various members, like who's got tension with who sort of thing. And it obviously ended with an amazing match between two tag teams as well. So for me, that was my feud of the year, just for the length it went, the subtlety, the intrigue. Loved it.
Yes. This was also my pick. I love this feud so much, and one of the special things was just, it was like Hangman was distancing himself from the Elite. He kind of just felt unworthy because he lost to Jericho in the inaugural champion match, and just was kind of on a losing streak, but Omega was as well, kind of, and then they came together to win the tag belts. Then you had Omega and the Bucks kind of looking for a friendly competition at first, while Page wanted to prove himself. And this caused it to become kind of more of a bitter feud.
Yes.
Right, because just Hangman's winning nature and just he was kind of a lone wolf now, got in the way, and then the Bucks were almost like kind of actual rivals now, and you had Omega trying to play peacekeeper here.
That's right.
Hangman's insecurities and whatnot grew, and dissension between him and Omega was constantly teased. It came to Hangman being booted from the Elite and costing the Bucks a title shot against him and Omega because FTR convinced him he could get out of the Bucks shadow and whatnot. And I just thought this feud was so clever. I loved it so much. It was a big fat breath of fresh air from WWE's crap that I've experienced for years now.
Right.
And in an era where wrestling has been made worse and worse, this feud survived through the whole year, which is a testament to this great feud, and it was my favorite of the year.
And again, just like subtle stuff, right?
Right.
Like just stuff that could really happen. People
Yeah.
have issues with each other and they're not, communication breaks down and things happen, right? So nothing
and like I said,
crazy.
It was weird because it's like it started with a match, like, or like it started just before a match, and they never had a rematch for the belts. It was just like that one match, but then it still somehow continued. It was really weird, but it was great at the same time.
I loved it as well.
Yep.
All right, so that takes us to our next award, which will be our Faction of the Year. And again, this is another one that's combined between the two shows.
Yeah, there's not too many like top tier factions.
No, I had to put Legado del Fantasma made the cut.
Right. Yes, they are a nominee here.
So our nominees are?
Legado del Fantasma, although they didn't do much other than hold the Cruiserweight title hostage.
They existed for the year.
Yes.
Or a bunch of the year.
Most of the year. Undisputed Era, of course. Inner Circle, obviously. Death Triangle is a late nominee, although they had a big chunk where they were
Yes,
around.
I just wish they were around longer.
As much as it pains me to say, I can't pick Death Triangle. And then the Elite.
Yes. So, I mean, I think we probably don't have too much to say here. My choice is obviously going to be the Elite, and I really don't know how you could argue anyone else. Maybe you're about to, I'm not sure, but they were so interesting almost this entire year and generated multiple match of the year candidates. This was a pretty easy category for me we've talked about the Elite enough in other categories. I won't say too much, but for me, this was not a very difficult category to choose. How about you?
I did choose the Elite, and the Undisputed Era would be a much closer competitor if it was based on purely accomplishments, because they all started the year as champions, with Cole holding the heavyweight title,
the
strongest
Prophecy
North American champion, yes, and Fish and O'Reilly as the tag team champions, but one by one they lost their titles. Cole held his for the first half of the year before dropping it to Keith Lee. Then there was the portion of the year where they fell out of prominence and were doing those lame comedy segments where Strong was afraid of a car
my
trunk
biggest complaint.
and Dexter Lumis, and that was a lull in their year.
It was.
However, now O'Reilly's breaking out as a single star in a War Games victory that they now have under their belt. They close out 2020 looking pretty good. But the Elite managed to win my best faction of the year despite all the dissension in the ranks. But that almost added to their faction.
It did. I just enjoyed the faction, whether it was
the storyline with Hangman was some of the most clever storytelling I've ever seen. It wasn't rushed and ran throughout basically the whole year. And whether they were like against each other or with each other, they were really just prominent throughout the whole year, and that's one of the things you look for.
Absolutely.
And Omega and Page held the tag belts for most of the year, which is one of the things that kept them prominent. And in terms of accomplishments, they might better the Undisputed Era because Omega and the Bucks are closing out the year as champions, so it's hard to argue a better faction.
Beautiful. I agree. We agree on a few of these. That's good.
Yep.
All right, our next award goes to our Best on the Mic, and that is another combined one.
Yes. Nominees are Eddie Kingston. Of course, he had such a personal touch to his promos and just a sense of realism to it.
He's
right?
the best.
And he's just very logical.
Yep.
MJF is obviously another contender.
Yes.
AEW is the land of the mic man.
For sure.
John Moxley, again, he has an inept ability just to stay in character while putting his opponents over greatly.
Every time. We talk about it every week.
One of my best examples was when you had that match against Darby Allen. He's like, I like you and whatever, and like, I might have to kill you to beat you or whatever. And like, he kept wanting Darby to like stay down in that match or whatever. He's just like, he's able to put people over but stay in character. It's just not everyone does that. Not everyone can do that, and not everyone's willing to do that.
Exactly.
And then Chris Jericho, obviously his promos are still great, funny a lot of the times, just great. He's a good leader for the Inner Circle because he's still decent in the ring and he's a great mouthpiece for them.
Yep, especially if he's beside MJF. The dynamic the two of those have is fantastic.
Another great mouthpiece is Taz. He may have been retired for a long time, but there was a reason he went into commentary after he retired, is because this man is great on the mic. He's a perfect mouthpiece for a guy like Cage who can't talk, and the same goes for Will Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yep.
And Starks can talk on his own, but Taz is still good to speak for him sometimes. But he works as a great mouthpiece for a faction, and that's what they're using him for, and it just works.
Yep.
Johnny Gargano is kind of similar to Chris Jericho, where he does blend in comedy pretty well into his promos.
Yeah, he was entertaining this year.
Yeah, and he's a great talker for the way.
Yes.
And then we have Finn Balor. Some of his promos were pretty good, but some of them were just kind of weird, but some of them were good.
Yeah, he did a good job. He's not my favorite, but he did a good job this year.
we don't have it written down, but I guess like a late nominee we could put in is Pat McAfee.
Yep.
Because some of his promos have been pretty good.
Yep.
But some of them were rambling.
They were. A couple were.
Then Bert Baker, I think, because she was injured for a while, but she still put on some great promos, like the how to be a role model thingies when she was injured. So
she was great.
She just had some great promos throughout the year.
Good nominees. Solid group. And most of them are from AEW, as we always say.
Yeah.
So my pick for this, it would have been Kingston easily, but I decided to go back and look up when he actually showed up. So he didn't come to AEW until July. So for me, he missed half.
That's literally half of the year,
right.
Basically.
So if he were there the full year doing what he's doing, he's promo of my life, possibly, right? I think the guy is unbelievably passionate and sincere and just could sell anything to me. But he missed more than half of the year in AEW, so I'm going to give it to MJF, who just put in a full year of fantastic promos. Like, some of them were stronger than others, but a lot of them
with anyone.
A lot of them were amazing, and you're always like, oh, MJF's got a microphone, stop what you're doing, I need to listen in case something good comes on. So for the full year that he had, I gave it to him, but again, if Kingston's there from the beginning, he would win it because he's legendary.
Yes, and maybe he'll win next year then.
Yep.
I also picked MJF. He garners heel heat effortlessly and clearly doesn't need a script, and maybe even doesn't need bullet points sometimes. Sometimes he might just wing it, and I would never know.
Right.
Kingston is a close second, however. His feud with Mox showed he can add a personal touch to it and gives logical motive aside from what we would usually call heel logic. In his feud with Mox, he said he had to become a snake to get on top, and that actually makes sense, right? It's like something someone would actually have to do occasionally.
I don't want to be this way, but I have to.
Right, and it's not just the normal heel logic where, like, the character could believe that. Anyone could believe that, right?
Right.
But MJF, like you said, has been in AEW longer, and he's been able to give us more as a result. A full year of stellar promos. And I would probably have picked Kingston if he was able to do the same.
Right.
And that's probably the only thing holding Kingston back from a victory here.
Excellent. So another one we agree on.
Yep.
That takes us to our next category, which will be our Commentator of the Year.
All right, and our nominees are for Commentator is Mauro Ranallo, Nigel McGuinness, Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, Wade Barrett, and Vic Joseph. And this is one of the categories where NXT could actually shine. Like, they do actually have a bunch of nominees there, because to their credit, they did have, throughout the year, some great commentators.
I'm not enjoying it currently, I don't think, but...
No, but just throughout the year, they've had some pretty good ones.
And to be fair, like I've said it before on the show, when we're taking notes, commentary seems to be the thing I notice the least, because I'm focused on everything else. So my choice in this category is a little interesting. We talked about this one yesterday, I think, so you know my choice on this one. I love Excalibur, and we thank him weekly, right? Because he calls moves, and sometimes I don't know what the moves are, and he explains what it is to me, which is great. But just in terms of my enjoyment, I've really enjoyed Tony Schiavone this year. It just feels like he's having fun again, you know what I mean? He had some rough time at WCW near the end of that where he clearly wasn't enjoying himself, and he'll talk about it. And it seems like he's just back enjoying wrestling and having fun. Mm-hmm. And he's willing to be made fun of. He's willing to make fun of himself.
Yeah, like with Bert Baker.
So I just have really enjoyed, he just brings this sort of casual fun, I'm enjoying myself, and this AEW wrestling is really fun. And he's just sort of caught up in it, I feel like. And I really enjoyed it. So honorable mention to Excalibur, but my choice is Tony Schiavone.
Nice.
Yeah, you?
I'm gonna pick Excalibur. I would say a similar thing to him, where he does seem to be enjoying himself. And I would have picked Mauro probably if he was active for the whole year.
Of course. And
Excalibur's like Mauro now in the aspect he knows all the moves and is able to call the matches with immense knowledge, and really helps me with my notes, if I'm being honest.
Yes, he's a big
Mauro was a little more hyped, especially in big matches, but Excalibur is still great. His move knowledge helps me, like I said, on my notes on Dynamite a ton.
Yes.
And I don't know, I just really like him. He seems to be very into it too, and he's at the same time, he's also someone I've never really seen before AEW, so it's also just like someone new as well. So I'm gonna pick Excalibur.
Good choice. I don't disagree with you. He is technically probably the best. I've just been really enjoying Schiavone.
I think you made a pretty good argument for Schiavone, given that it is a bit of a weird
I would
pick.
be fine with them going with Schiavone and Excalibur, and that's it. I don't need JR. He is the best commentator ever, but he's not doing it for me these days.
He's a shadow of his former self.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, well, I guess that brings us to our next category, which is from 2020 has brought us here, and that is our Cinematch of the Year. this is another category where we've combined the two companies together. So what are our nominees for that, sir?
We have sprinkled in a bit of main roster because there hasn't been a lot.
Oh, you left them in. I didn't consider them, but you can leave them in there.
We're probably not going to pick them anyways.
I'm definitely not, but go ahead.
Yes. So we have the AEW Stadium Stampede.
I had forgotten that was this year, actually. You reminded me. I had to double check that.
Yes. This was at Double or Nothing this year. The Elite, which was, the Elite minus Cody plus Matt Hardy.
Right.
The deleted Elite, I guess.
Sure. Nice. That works.
Yes. And they faced I don't know why I can't think of it for a second, but the Inner Circle, which was the original Inner Circle, Jericho, Hager, Guevara, Proud and Powerful.
Right.
This match was so fun. It was contestant stadium with a ring in the middle. These guys battled all throughout, and it was capped off by Kenny Omega hitting a big one-winged angel to Sammy Guevara through like a platform thingy.
Set up in the stands, right?
Yes,
I think it was.
It was pretty cool.
Yep.
And next we have a critically acclaimed Boneyard match from WrestleMania 36. Everybody really liked this, and I don't know why.
I thought it was okay at best.
Yeah. And I would say the same for the Firefly Funhouse match, although I enjoyed it a little better because I like Bray Wyatt. I thought there were some cool story elements to it, but again, not much of a match.
No.
Probably the most matchy one of the bunch, Randy Orton versus
the most
Edge.
Matchy, yeah, for sure.
Yes, just the most like a singles match. It was a singles match, but literally we know it was like edited together and like filmed like that. You know what I mean? Because literally Edge injured himself in one of the retakes.
Yes,
so
he did.
I think this is widely considered a cinema match just because like there was like this is the first time they really pumped in a crowd, and there's just like.
Is that the greatest match of all time? No.
Well, they certainly touted it as such. This was from
not
Backlash
literally.
2020.
Yes, in quotation marks.
John Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa, I guess. Although I'd probably put this also in worst.
I had forgotten about that until you mentioned it yesterday.
I just remember both of us not enjoying this.
No, which is considering the people involved, surprising.
I think you really didn't like it because this was before I started watching NXT again.
Right.
Because this is the period where I didn't like it and I didn't care enough to watch it. So.
Yep.
But I just didn't like it because I did watch a bunch of clips of it, so I basically watched it, but it wasn't great.
No.
So I'd also include it in my worst cinema match, ironically.
So why is it in our best of? Why are you even mentioning
because it was a cinema match and it was whatever.
Neither of us liked it. Anyways, keep going.
Neither of us liked the Boneyard. That's it.
Okay.
Don't have a lot.
So this is another category for me that was pretty easy. I've already talked about not really liking cinema matches, but I really enjoyed one. And that was probably the first one on our list, right?
Yep.
From the beginning of the year, which was the Stadium Stampede.
Yeah, this was never in question for me.
Right, same. The only one I ever enjoyed. Just a lot of fun with some real creativity on display. And for me, all other contenders pale in comparison to this one. Yes,
this trumped every other cinema match, of all time.
It was
no
my
WWE Cinematch or AEW's other Cinematch attempts, like the Tooth and Nail match, came close. There's so much to say about this match, but it would take too long. There's so many amazing parts. Like you said, the creativity really on display. They kind of split up. There was like the bar fight. There was Matt Hardy being shoved into the pool and kind of coming back as a different gimmick, which was kind of funny. And just it played to everybody's strengths and was just so entertaining. And the finishing spot was great.
Matt Jackson doing the
the
Northern Lights suplexes the length of the field.
In their turn of the golf cart.
Right, and and I forgot about Hangman being in the bar there, right?
And he was riding the horse.
Yeah, that was it. It was just fun. It was ridiculous stuff. There was serious stuff. There were high spots. It was just a fun
there
match.
Was one of the I think it was either Santana or Ortiz being locked in like the ice cooler.
Yep.
And Jericho hitting a Judas effect on the mascot.
Yep. It was just a fun match.
Yes,
definitely
it was
the
amazing.
winner.
I loved it.
Okay, so that brings us into some other matches of the year. We're going to start out with NXT specifically. So for our NXT match of the year, what are our nominees, sir?
We first have Walter versus Ilya Dragunov, NXT UK, October 29th, 2020.
Slugfest. My God.
These guys beat the crap out of each other, and usually I wouldn't have included this if we didn't actually watch it.
Right.
And it wasn't so utterly amazing.
Because you'll notice we don't have a ton of NXT UK stuff here. We don't really watch it. We watch bits and pieces, but this was
just amazing.
This has to be on the list.
Wow.
Yep.
I remember you literally telling Dragunov just literally to stay down. He took a beating.
It was
just kept
almost
kicking
too
up.
much.
Yes.
It's a lot to watch.
Next, we have Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly.
Loved it.
NXT TakeOver 31. This match was really good, and This is one of the big reasons that Kyle O'Reilly has made our breakout star of the year.
Yep.
Really proved himself as a viable single star, and I am very excited for their rematch coming up.
Yep.
And I'm sure if their rematch was within 2020, it would have also made the list.
I have a dream of a triple threat with them and Pete Dunne.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Please.
Uh-huh.
Next, we have Damien Priest versus Bronson Reed versus Johnny Gargano versus my boy Cameron Grimes. Versus Velveteen Dream.
Very fun match.
NXT TakeOver 30, the ladder match for the vacant North American Championship. Great match.
Very good match.
We were both rooting hard for Cameron Grimes, and I was worried it was going to be Bronson Reed because he was pushed hard into this match.
I still remember Grimes was like the star of that match for us, even though he didn't win. He just did
But Reed held the title in the pre-match thingy on NXT, so that's always the jinx.
Yep.
And Priest did win this, and this started out a pretty good run for him. And this match was just really good. Obviously, it would have been much better in a normal setting, and I'm glad Dexter Lumis had to be pulled out of this. But this was really good.
It was.
Next, we had Team Blackheart versus Team Larae. Team Blackheart was Shotzi, Ripley, Ember Moon, and Io Shirai, and Team Larae was Candice LeRae, Toni Storm, Raquel Gonzalez, and Dakota Kai. Gonzalez got the win for Team Larae after a powerbomb, an avalanche powerbomb through a ladder on the middle grating. This match was like really good. I think we were both pleasantly surprised by this one.
I loved it. It had its flaws, but I loved it for sure.
Yeah, it was really good. And another one I wasn't expecting to be good was Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher in the Fight Pit.
Oh, Fight Pit.
This was really good. It was a cage match with no ropes, but then you also had a platform above there, and you could only win by submission or knockout.
Yeah, I did not have expectations for that, but I enjoyed it too.
But it played to both men's strengths. Like, both men are pretty good and well experienced in this kind of field, so it worked perfectly.
Yep.
I really liked it. And Kurt Angle as a ref just kind of fit as well.
I forgot about that.
Yep. Then we had Finn Balor versus Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa from NXT Super Tuesday 1, the Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match.
Right.
I love this match. You put 4 absolute top-tier talents in a match in a stipulation they could all go in. Like, it just worked perfectly. And the finish where Adam Cole getting a second fall at the last second to put a tie between him and Balor was awesome.
Yep, it was a good match.
Just love the finish. And that leads into our next nominee, which is Finn Balor versus Adam Cole, NXT Super Tuesday 2. This is where Balor claimed the vacant NXT Championship, and this was a great match, too. I'd probably like the Fatal 4-Way a little better, but this was still great, and just really good and started Balor's title run.
Yep.
Next we have Undisputed Era versus Imperium Worlds Collide.
I had forgotten about this one. It was a solid match.
This was one that came at the beginning of the year. 8-man tag, so it was all members of both factions. We could have put Imperium for faction, but
that's true.
They were kind of split for
They
the
wouldn't
whole
win
year.
it, though.
No, they wouldn't.
Against the Elite, no.
Right. This was just so good. One of my highlight spots I remember is Walter taking an Olympic slam from Strong through the announce table, and I'm just like, wow, Strong actually did that.
Right.
I think it was Alexander Wolf who got taken out of the match for some reason.
I think you're right.
Mid-match, but It was still a really good match. Just two great factions at the time going at it.
It was a good match.
It was great.
At a sort of forgotten show, I think, too.
Yep. Yeah, because I remember the Worlds Collide last year, or like 2019, I keep saying last year. They were just like these kind of house show things.
It was.
Like, just lower tier talent from main roster would go against them.
Yes.
I remember there was a decent match with rest in peace Luke Harper versus Dijakovic.
Yep.
And I was like, they're replacing the Rumble takeover with this. But this show was actually pretty good. You had Devlin winning the Cruiserweight title in a pretty good 4-way. You had DIY versus Mustache Mountain.
Yeah.
You had this match as well, and Balor versus Dragunov.
Yep.
Like, this show was actually, pay-per-view quality, and then you got Takeover Portland later on.
Right.
But back to our nominees. Jordan Devlin versus Tyler Bate, NXT UK Takeover Blackpool 2. I forgot about this match.
Really good match.
I don't even need to watch again because I'm sure both of these guys, they're both great. So I'm sure if it's a match of the year contender,
that might be one people haven't seen. Right. So if it's a sleeper match, it's a really good match.
Again, we don't usually cover NXT UK, but this was a takeover, so it does make it a little more eligible.
Yep, it was good.
Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor, NXT Takeover Portland. I remember this taking place. I remember Gargano wearing red. I don't remember anything specifically, but this is always going to be a good match.
Of course.
Both guys are uber talented.
Yep.
And it was great. Undisputed Era versus the Broserweight, which is Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. That will never be a bad team.
Yes.
And it was Fish and O'Reilly, so that's just going to be great.
It was an excellent
This is when
match.
The Broserweights won the tag titles, and it was really good.
Yep. All right. So my match of the year runner-up, I'll start with that because it was close here. My runner-up made me feel uncomfortable watching it, basically. It felt so real. Rarely will you ever see two men beat each other in a professional match.
Rarely will you ever see two men willing to do
like
that.
Like Walter and Ilya Dragunov did. If you haven't seen it and you're sure your stomach can take it, go ahead and watch it. But it was amazing.
Like Walter. One of Walter's finishing moves is the clothesline, and you might think that's dumb, but he lays into
after everything Dragunov taken to that point, right?
Yeah, and Walter usually does it where like he'll do the powerbomb and then just lays into the guy with the clothesline.
So that was my runner-up, but my match of the year was also a physical battle where both men ended up with injuries, but delivered an amazing, captivating, realistic match.
Yes.
This is the style of wrestling that I love. It's my preferred, where it looks like it could be real. So my NXT match of the year is Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor from TakeOver 31.
Mm-hmm. I agree. This match was so good, they literally injured each other.
I just watched it again yesterday. It was crazy.
Yep. And my two of my close ones would have been Walter and Dragunov and that 8-man tag. I just really liked the 8-man tag. I thought it was a good faction war.
Yep.
This match, like I said, was just amazing. They literally injured each other. Balor injured O'Reilly's midsection. O'Reilly broke Balor's jaw in 3 places. That's not a testament to the amazingness, I guess, of this match. I don't know what is. The rematch could be better, but it'll technically be in 2021, so it's not going to be eligible. But this match proved O'Reilly to NXT fans who haven't seen some of his previous work on the indies that he is a single star and he can do it.
Yep.
And that speaks volumes to the greatness of this match. And my other considerations were Dragunov, Walter, the 8-man tag, and the 4-way Iron Man match.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good matches. That's why we like these two shows. They tend to put out the best wrestling.
Yeah, even when NXT's creative fails to impress us,
solid.
And in-ring is it's always one of their strong suits.
Right. So let's move that into our AEW match of the year this year again. So what do we have for that one?
First is Hangman Adam Page and and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks from Revolution. This match was literally touted by some people as the greatest tag team match of all time. I think even Meltzer might have said that. It could be the greatest tag team match of all time. And I don't disagree. This match was just so amazing. The story, even without the story, this match would be a match of the year contender.
Yep.
It was just amazing in ring action, topped off with an amazing storyline.
Agree.
Stadium Stampede was such a great cinematic. I think it qualifies for this.
I have it on there, yeah.
It was still great. From Double or Nothing this year, it was great, entertaining, and some decent actual wrestling, I guess, too. Young Bucks FTR is a later addition, but it still came in as it did not disappoint in the dream match all fans were waiting for. From Full Gear, it was great. Another nominee would be Proud and Powerful versus Best Friends, the Parking Lot Brawl. I know we both thoroughly enjoyed this one from Dynamite.
Yes, it was super fun.
Amazing.
I watched that one again yesterday, too.
So fun. Then we got Jon Moxley versus Darby Allen from Dynamite on August 7th, 2020, which the 8-month would be August, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so it is August.
Correct.
So I have 8/7/20. This was just a TV title match, and it was just great. Two baby faces beating the hell out of each other, and I love Moxley. Just he was gonna do whatever it took to retain his title, but he wanted Darby to stay down because he didn't want to ruin this kid's career.
Yep.
And it was just a really cool dynamic in this match.
I enjoyed that part too.
Another great Mox match is coming up, as his match with Kenny Omega was amazing. Another late contender, but
yeah, from Winter is Coming, right?
Yes, Winter is Coming. This was incredible, and the finish was an incredible, just, I don't know, would you call it a swerve, I guess? But it was just really good.
Yeah, it was cool, yeah, for sure.
And
it
Butcher and Blade.
That got the whole wrestling world talking, right?
Yes, it
for
did.
Weeks and weeks.
And it's got some interpromotional warfare.
It does, which has been somewhat disappointing, but that's okay.
Butcher and Blade versus Natural Nightmares, their bunkhouse match. This was really a shocker to me, and might be a shocker to others as well. Kind of like the Parking Lot Brawl, or just some fun tornado tag, hard-hitting action.
It was.
Just two teams in a no-holds-barred environment, beating the hell out of each other. Blade bled like crazy.
Exceeded my expectations by
PT Marshall had a pretty nice ladder dive. We did cover, this is another match we actually did get to cover in our weekly episode, so I don't know if you'd be able to find it, but if you wanted to see us
It's
talk
there.
about it, then you could probably find it. It's probably more recent.
Yep.
But this was just amazing, and it's even better when it just surprises you like that, right?
It is. Yeah, for sure.
Next we have Jon Moxley versus the late great Brody Lee
Yes.
from Double or Nothing. This match was cool too. They're both just hard hitting guys, and Brody literally put, I think, Mox through the stage when he had him on the sleeper, and then I think he succumbed to the bulldog choke.
Right.
This match was great. It was I don't remember it too much, but I just remember like the last few bits, and I just remember it being good.
Yep.
So that's all that we really need.
Yes.
Darby Allen versus Cody Rhodes. This match was really good, and I loved the roll-up ending for Darby Allen, kind of like what Cody did in their TNT tournament match. Remember when he did the coffin drop and then Cody did a roll-up or whatever?
Yep.
And countered it. This match was great, and got a big win for a guy who definitely deserves it.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, and I forgot to mention now, so after I made my ringside order,
yeah,
I told you about it already. Now they restocked Darby Allen on there, so
bummer.
That's great. Anyways, that is from Full Gear. Then we have FTR versus Omega and Paige from All Out.
Okay.
I think we know.
It's a long list. Yeah, so I wanted to mention one other match that I loved but could obviously never be up here for Match of the Year, and that was Brody Lee's squash of Cody Rhodes.
Oh, yes.
Right? Obviously, it can't be a Match of the Year contender, but
it was a squash, but it was just amazing.
The fact that it happened, they were willing to let it happen. Cody was on board with it. Brody Lee looked like a monster and got a title reign. Like,
and then
it was a very cool match.
The aftermath was also entertaining.
It was. So, for me, the best match, and I went and watched it again, and it just solidified this for me, it's Hangman and Omega versus the Young Bucks.
Yes, this has been touted as possibly the greatest tag match of all time.
So this is your match of the year as well?
Of course. I love this the second I finished watching it.
Amazing wrestling.
It was amazing from top to bottom.
And storytelling by four of the absolute best talents in the world, right? This is a masterpiece for sure. And then my other sort of match that I really, really enjoyed, I wanted to throw in there, was the parking lot brawl, which was just, I had low expectations for.
Entertainment.
And remember, Pride and Powerful came out with the face paint, and these guys just right off the bat were like, people are getting powerbombed through the windshield of cars, like no joke.
Yes,
this match was crazy.
Through a door, I think.
Yes, but yes, the match of the year is for sure Omega and Paige versus the Young Bucks, no doubt.
Like I said, this match would have been a contender without the storyline.
Yes.
And the fact that it had like the best storyline of the year, in my opinion, to boot, just makes it the best match of the year. And the storyline probably helps it to be possibly the greatest tag team match of all time.
Right.
Like, I certainly can't think of any better, but then again, I am a child.
I would have to think. Off the top of my head, it's up there.
So good. Again, I can't say enough good things about this match. Like, it would take me too long. Just go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Well, you might get another chance, because I have a feeling our next category, right, which is where we
overall
talk about
match.
Overall match of the year from either promotion, so it would go between our two choices before. I think we're both agreeing
Paige
again.
And the Bucks,
right?
Or
so
Paige, Omega, and the Bucks.
So Young Bucks, Omega, Paige. So watching it back yesterday sealed it for me. There is so much going on in this match, along with the fantastic wrestling, as you said. You have amazing selling. Matt's selling his back, right? He has a history of an injured back. He's selling that.
Yeah.
You have this personal history between the two of them, or between the four of them, where it's like they know each other's moveset, so they're kind of one step ahead, and you have to do things differently.
And like I said, when we were talking about the storyline, the dynamic where like Omega and the Bucks are friendly, but then Omega's like almost like, Paige is not.
Right.
And it just like, it worked to make it more interesting, and the in-ring action was on point.
And again, here's something like I sort of had forgotten because it's been so long now. A super hot crowd who was creating a megastar in Paige. Paige was the man in this match that the crowd was behind the most. This match is really long, but it goes by incredibly quickly when you watch it. It's just a joy to watch, especially if you actually know and understand.
Think we could have included Paige in the breakout star.
Yeah, all the storylines going on in this match. It's a beautiful match.
And
I love...
a masterpiece.
As a fan of tag team wrestling, I love saying that my match of the year is a tag team match, because this company respects tag teams and loves tag teams.
Yeah.
And I do too. So this match, if you haven't seen it,
this was amazing.
Just go watch it.
I think the only reason it wasn't the main event of Revolution is because I think they wanted Mox's crowning achievement at the end. And that's fair enough, because it is the world title and it is Jon Moxley.
Right.
But if that wasn't happening, I think this would have been the main event.
Right.
because I think AEW knew what they had.
Okay, so now we are going to look at NXT, our favorite tag teams, right? We were going to talk about. So we're going to move into, first would be NXT, so our NXT Tag Teams of the Year, which is not easy to come up with a very big list here, but what did you get?
I've got Undisputed Era, Broserweights, and Breezango, who I've also nominated for Worst.
Okay, so who did you... Oh, do you want me to say who I chose?
Yeah, in a sec. And the reason I've nominated Breezango for both is because based on accomplishments, they did pretty good.
I have them in there, too.
They returned and they won the NXT Tag Titles and had an okay run.
But
then they were also really lame and boring, so that's why they qualify for Worst and Best.
Fair enough.
I picked Undisputed Era.
I did as well. The Broserweights had some really good matches, but they
didn't last long enough.
Right. They weren't together long, and so it's almost by default it was Undisputed Era because they were together, they had good matches, etc., etc., even though their face work as faces I do not enjoy. But again, this company doesn't really like tag teams and care about tag teams, so it was slim pickings. It's Undisputed Era.
Yeah, so our AEW nominees are...
So this is the exact opposite, a company that's just overflowing with tag teams.
Page and Omega, the Young Bucks, FTR, and I just added on Proud and Powerful because they did pretty good.
Yep.
Throughout the year, and they were prominent. I think the obvious pick is Omega and Page.
Ooh, well, I might surprise you.
I know who you picked, I'm pretty sure. They were dominant throughout the year. They held the tag titles, and I've said a bunch about their storyline already. They were involved in the best storyline of the year.
They were.
And the best match of the year, in my opinion. They just did it all, and they fell to FTR, and then that even improved the storyline, and that was the end of their team, basically.
So my favorite tag team is FTR, but I don't feel they deserve this award. And although they might not be my favorite tag team because they're not, my winner consistently has entertaining matches with everybody. And when I really thought about it, they were the key opponent for each of the other nominated teams' best matches, right? They were the key ingredient in the FTR match, in the Page Omega match. So I have selected, surprising myself a little bit, the Young Bucks in my opinion, this might be the most prestigious award going on here too, because this division is completely stacked and overflowing. So I just think
the Bucks isn't even a bad pick either.
These guys are involved in every big match. They're a true tag team in every sense of the word. They've been together competing the entire year. I've never seen them have a bad match. So Young Bucks, even though you're not my favorite tag team by a long shot, you are my tag team of the year in AEW.
And my overall tag is going to be Page and Omega.
And mine would be the Young Bucks because NXT doesn't really do much with tag teams.
Yep.
All right, so that leads us into, we're going to switch into female wrestlers. So our NXT female wrestler of the year.
Nominees: Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley, Dakota Kai, and Candice LeRae.
So yeah, I mean, I think this is
you want to say it at the same time?
Pretty easy. 1, 2, 3.
Io Shirai. Yeah.
Maybe my easiest decision of this whole exercise. Great matches, cool character.
Other than match of the year, maybe.
Entrance theme of a star. She's charismatic. Even with limited English, she's charismatic.
Yeah, she's held the title for a while now. And I can't remember when Takeover in Your House was, but she's held it for a while. And it's not like she's just held the title, but she's had some great defenses.
And even when she's not defending, look at what she did in the War Games match.
Yeah. Even that, she was insane in that match.
She is a mega superstar.
But she had a good defense against, I think it was Larae and Kai, and her recent one against Rhea Ripley really surprised me, but that was great as well.
Yep. My runner-up would be Kaylie Ray. I think she's awesome. We just don't see enough.
Yeah.
She's had an amazing year in
UK. She's held the title literally the whole year, just like Walter.
And she is really good. I would love to see her come to North America.
Me
so
too.
Io Shirai by a long shot in that category.
Yep. Then we have AEW Female Wrestler of the Year.
So I feel like this is the reverse of the tag teams, right? Yes. So tag teams, AEW has 1 million, and with female wrestlers, NXT has 1 million, and AEW is hurting.
So we got Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and I wrote Serena Deeb in because she
had some good matches.
She's had some good matches.
Yep.
She does hold a title that's not AEW's, but still, I think she had the matches on AEW, so she qualifies.
Yep.
I picked Hikaru Shida, but almost by default.
That's funny.
Because Britt Baker, yes, she is my favorite, but much like FTR, with you, I think Hikaru Shida has just done better in this year. She's held the title for most of the year, and Britt Baker was injured while still being entertaining. But I think just Hikaru Shida, unfortunately, wins by default.
So it would likely be Thunder Rosa, but she didn't arrive until August. I think if she has a full year with the attention she's getting, she'd probably be my choice. But it's funny because my line says I'd have to say Shida kind of by default.
Right.
The division is lackluster and kind of stands out on such a strong product otherwise, right? Everything else on this show is just clicking on all cylinders, and this division is not. There's some talent in the division for sure, but the direction seems unclear. Shida had some pretty good matches and held the title for a really long time, so she gets it.
Yes.
And then take a wild guess on who our overall female wrestler of the year would be.
Time?
1, 2, 3. Io Shirai. Way
Yeah.
too easy. I don't think there's anybody else really even to consider. She's the best.
Ever since her heel turn, and then we got to see her first heel match at TakeOver.
And I've said it on our show.
Improved.
I didn't love her in the beginning either. I didn't see the hype.
I despised her.
And now she is the best.
And she did have a pretty good cage match with Shayna Baszler, and then she turned heel after. I was just like, And
then, the heel turn was huge for me.
Yes.
Loved her.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into our final few here. We've got NXT Male Wrestler of the Year. Nominees, please?
We actually do have quite a few interesting nominees here. We got Adam Cole, who held the NXT Championship for I would say half the year. I almost said better part of the year, but pretty much half of the year, because he did lose in July, which is when the Great American Bash was, in the unification match with Keith Lee, as I have mentioned a few times already. We got Johnny Gargano, who has won the North American Championship twice this year. In his heel turn, he turned heel at TakeOver Portland, and then feuded with Champa for a bit, and then won the North American title later on twice. So pretty good accomplishment-wise, and story-wise, he's been pretty prominent. So he did really good this year. He was also in that Iron Man match. Made Keith Lee, who had a great year if you're looking at accomplishments once again. North American Championship throughout the beginning of the year, then became the dual champion, and then kind of fizzled out after that. And then we have Finn Balor, who towards the end of the year has had a great year. He had a good match with Gargano, but then kind of wasn't doing much. Then after that Iron Man match, he and Cole were the two guys who had the tie, and then they had a match there, and then Balor has had a pretty good title run since. Damien Priest, who has really improved this year, won the North American title, had a pretty good run till losing it to Gargano. And Kyle O'Reilly, who had a decent year until he broke out as a single star and became a late contender.
Right. Well, excuse me. You've seen my winner of this, and you were somewhat surprised, I think. And this will be an unpopular choice. To be honest, it should probably be Walter, but I don't watch enough NXT UK. He's had the most dominant year, probably. But then,
yeah, but I think it's also lack of competition for him.
I was just going to say, you raised a good point about that, this quality of competition, right?
And the prominence as well, right? Like NXT UK, I don't think a lot of people watch that.
They don't. So I went with what will probably be an unpopular choice, as he didn't have any major singles titles, but I am choosing Kyle O'Reilly for this award. He had some awesome tag matches, awesome singles matches. He developed into a reliable main eventer. Sorry, not main roster, please, never. A main eventer when everyone else got hurt or left, right? He was kind of, everyone's gone, we need somebody, and this guy stepped up. He's the guy whose matches I personally look forward to the most right now, and he always delivers, so it may be an unpopular choice.
He did have that ladder match.
Because credential-wise, it might be Keith Lee. Again, Adam Cole, I thought the face stuff was disappointing. Damien Priest isn't quite ready. Balor, it wasn't a full year for me. So I know O'Reilly missed a bit of time too, but he is my choice for NXT Male Wrestler of the Year, and I look forward to a singles push for him in 2021.
Agreed. I think he could even beat Balor, dare I say.
Yeah.
At New Year's Eve.
I think so too.
I was going to pick Adam Cole, but I might have to go against my boy and go Keith Lee.
Okay, that's fair.
Had an amazing year. Like I said, North American title, and then the dual championship. And then,
now nothing.
And then not much. He lost to Cross, which was whatever, and then he left. But I just think he had such a strong beginning of the year, and if O'Reilly's able to be a contender on just like mostly the later part of the year, I think Keith Lee could be a contender based on like the best. Like he had such a good like first half of the year.
It's very fair. I'm just sort of I just forget about people when they're gone, and then I get biased. They have that main roster stink on them, right? So unfortunately, he had an amazing year, and he was dominant in NXT for sure.
And he's just kind of fizzled out, which is a shame.
It's a shame. The guy has everything. He should be a star on any promotion, on any roster. He should be a focus.
All right, AEW Male Wrestler of the Year. Wonder who it will be.
This one was a hard one, eh?
Yeah.
So who are our nominees?
Mr. Jon Moxley, who started the year pretty good.
I've heard of him.
Jericho, won the title in February, and has held the title until November, losing it to Kenny Omega, who is another nominee on the list. along with Cody Rhodes, 2-time TNT champion this year, won the tournament and then lost it to Brody Lee in that squash match.
See, we give him credit. We give him a lot of grief, but we give him credit too.
Yeah,
we nominated
he had
him for Male
year.
Wrestler of the Year.
Had some good matches, so credit where credit is due.
Yep.
Right? And then we also have Hangman Adam Page.
Yes. So my choice, again, it's not my favorite wrestler, but that's not what it's about. I like the guy, but I like other people in this list better. But Wrestler of the Year, this is one that I don't think...
Well, you want to say it at the same time?
It's tough to argue anything else. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
John Moxley.
Yes. So on the mic and in the ring, I really don't think you can look at this year of AEW and decide on anybody else. I mean, Omega, a great year, but he's just peaking now.
Right, and he was mostly in the tag division, as was Page.
Right, and yeah, Page, amazing, but again, maybe if the guy holding the belt wasn't doing a great job or whatever, you could argue them, but Moxley was amazing as your face of this franchise. So I really think that it's pretty hands down that he is the Male Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah, Dean Ambrose was my favorite in WWE. Ever since I started watching, I just loved him for some reason.
Yep.
And I'm just so happy to see him doing so well.
Me too. He's
been arguably the most popular star since his AEW debut, and he won the AEW Championship in February and held it for almost the whole year. And like Io Shirai, it's not like he just held the title. He had good defenses against Brody Lee, Lance Archer, Eddie Kingston, MJF, Darby Allen, just like a whole host of top tier talent. He ain't defending against like jobbers or dorks. He's defending against like some of the best AEW has to offer, and he's arguably had the best year of anyone in pro wrestling.
And he delivered in a really important role in a fledgling new company, right? In their first full year, and
I think he and Jericho both did that.
Was huge for them.
They chose their first 2 champions wisely. Some would argue, oh, they're just relying on former WWE guys. No, I think Jericho added the name value for them and was actually quite entertaining. And Moxley, despite having a plethora of championships in WWE to his name, he really was just underutilized.
No, when they bring in underutilized talent and use them differently, that's different. So like him, Brody Lee, those are smart choices.
Right. And like it's like Dean Ambrose did have a main event run, but it was not like this.
No.
And I just think he's done so well, and he is my favorite ever. So
that would lead us then to our overall Male Wrestler of the Year.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Moxley. Yes. I don't think I think this is fairly clear choice. The guy had the best year in I won't say the best promotion because that's our last award and I don't want to spoil that. But he had the biggest year in this promotion.
Maybe in the world.
And I mean, we've said a million things already during this podcast about Moxley. They're all true. He is the Male Wrestler of the Year for both of us.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what PWI comes out with, but I'm going to be surprised if it's anything other than Moxley.
Yeah, would that be it? When was he number 1 this year too?
He was in Yeah, he was ranked number 1 in the PWI 500.
Right.
So I think he was. He think he's always gonna win. Number 1 in the women's was Bayley.
Right.
But she's main roster, so we obviously can't cover that too much.
It doesn't count.
And then tag team of the year was FTR, and they were a close contender at the very least. And Hangman and Omega were second. So
nice. So that leads us to our final award, where we just thought we would give an award for the top promotion of the year, and we did nominate everyone that we review.
So AEW, WWE, which don't have a chance. Impact, who I don't think have a chance either. And Ring of Honor, who probably have a better chance than Impact, but not much.
I think we both know who this promotion of the year is, right? 3, 2, 1?
AEW.
By far the most consistent show.
Yeah, and they're the youngest of all these promotions, and I was honestly fearing for them at the start of the pandemic, and they stayed strong through the whole year.
Yep. So consistent show with some standout shows along the way. By far the best creativity and storytelling that we watch. I watch 4 shows regularly and talk about them, right? This is by far the best one. Amazing wrestling, great talent.
And some good champion choices.
Listen, we're 2 self-professed wrestling nerds, and this is the 2 hours of wrestling a week for us that is appointment viewing, right? Like, we don't miss this. We sit down, we have a regular routine, and we're not going to wait a day to watch this. We started about half an hour late because I like to fast forward commercials. But it is the one thing in our weekly consumption of a lot of wrestling that is appointment viewing. So it is for sure easily my and your, I guess, promotion of the year. AEW, congratulations.
Always. Right. Probably even next year if I'm just going to make a prediction, because it's just, they've been doing so well.
It's
They're
just
on top of the world.
I'm just so happy that something really new and fun has come out, especially with a son who's into wrestling as well. It's been nice for me to have someone to have these conversations with and to sort of watch this brand new product that has been really exciting. And they did put in a really good year. And the fact that they've survived this pandemic, they're willing to clearly invest money into this. So I'm hoping it just keeps going strong into 2021. Mm-hmm. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our best of year-end review. Are we still planning on doing a worst of, sir?
I would assume so.
I'm not sure when that'll come out, but hopefully in the next little while.
Yeah, we'll try to do it in a timely manner.
We will. So again, we hope that you had a safe and happy new year with the people closest to you that you're allowed to hang out with, and that everything goes better in 2021. So thanks again for taking a bit of time out of your day to listen to us. And we look forward to hearing, well, you'll hear from us again tomorrow. We'll be back in the studio tomorrow, making our flagship weekly program, episode, 24?
I believe so.
So hopefully we see you all for that. And until then, have a great night.
Peace out.